Thank you for these thoughts. You have mentioned in your opening remarks the issue of terrorism, and we have all witnessed the horrific attacks in Pahalgam. I would like to ask you, what are the international implications of the conflict in Kashmir with regards to China, Russia, the US?
Okay. Look, first of all, this was not a conflict in Kashmir. This was a terrorist attack. And a terrorist attack which is part of a pattern which has not only targeted the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, but other parts of India as well. So it's very important to clarify, because when you project it as a conflict, you're really putting the perpetrator and the victim, without meaning to, I understand, at the same level. So this was a horrific, particularly brutal terrorist attack, because it was meant to create a fear psychosis and destroy the tourism economy of Kashmir, which is the mainstay. And it was also meant in a way to sow religious discord, the manner in which it was done. So what we were responding to was terrorism. And when we respond to such an attack, I think there was a lot of international understanding. So it was very, to me it was telling that the UN Security Council, 3 days after the attack, actually issued a statement saying that the people who did it should be brought to justice, they should be held accountable. And that is exactly what we did on the 7th of May. So we targeted terrorist headquarters and terrorist centers. And our campaign is against terrorists. Now, the terrorists in this case happen to be located in the country next door, because that country next door has for many, many years used terrorism as a kind of a tool in its attempts to pressurize us, or call it what you will. So in a way, I'm laboring the point, but I'm doing it because, when it comes to terrorism, I think today, there's virtually no country which would say, I approve of what is done, or no country which would say, I don't condemn what was done. And if I were to say, I have the right to defend myself, my people, I have the right to secure my country, I think much of the world would agree with me. And I'm happy to say that Germany does. We are very encouraged both by the very early condemnation of the terrorist attack, as well as the very clear message which we got on the 7th of May, and again today from Minister Wadeful, that Germany recognizes India's right to defend itself against terrorism.
Thank you so much for answering a broad range of questions. If time allows, I would probably have 3 questions from the audience really briefly, and then hand back to you also for final remarks. One question over here, one question over there, and the last question over there. Please really briefly introduce yourself and pose a question.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Jaishankar, and especially thank you for pointing out technology and mobility as key pillars of the relationship. I'm Jonas Kepsch, and I'm with Bertelsmann India Investment, a venture capital especially dedicated to investments into Indian technology companies. And the one thing standing in the way the most for us to unleash our full potential with our investments in India is actually the issue of bureaucracy on mobility. We have issues getting work visas or internship visas in time, and this is hindering our work in India. So our question is, how can we remove this burden of bureaucracy to unleash the full potential in economic relations between Germany and India?
So if I understood you right, the problem is getting work visas for people to work in India.
Exactly, yeah.
Look, obviously in my job, I often get people who have complaints or various levels of dissatisfaction. I understand it. That's what I'm supposed to address. But it would help me if people are specific. Because if you tell me the bureaucracy needs to be better, no question, I would agree with you too. But if you want to solve the problem, honestly, if you could give us some specifics, I have the ambassador sitting here, I'd be very, very happy to address that, because at the end of the day, it's when you solve people, specific problems that policy also changes along with it. And so I invite you to give me the specifics. I encourage the ambassador to make sure that our system, in that he keeps reminding me till we solve your problem. But when I do solve your problem, I also would be very happy if you would talk about it to other people.
Thank you so much. So I had two more questions that I would like to collect. The gentleman over there. Maybe a microphone?
So I'm Dr. Vivek Arunachalam, Professor for Business Innovations. One of the things that you emphasized was actually creating a kind of improving the relationship between India and Germany is something that you emphasized. Do you have an idea of pressing upon, of creating something like a innovation-based think tank, especially bridging between India and Germany, especially because India is now climbing above the value chain because it's no longer into the low-end innovation. It needs to go to the high-end innovation. And especially Germany is also very strong, especially based on their experience of the industries. So do you believe in creating a kind of a innovation-based think tank which can really support down the exchange of academic councils, industry-specific ideas? So how do you see about this?
You're not the first person, in a way, who's brought that up. Somebody else some time ago mentioned something similar. I would say, because there are two ways of changing things. One is to create a model and then hope others will copy the model or use it and then scale it up. That's one way of changing things. The other is create some kind of platform, an enabling platform where institutions or people come together, link, and then do it themselves. My experience is more biases me towards the second. I would, certainly say there are steps we need to take. I mean, today, for example, I had a very very strong urging to my counterpart minister. I said, look, please do everything you can to increase German language teaching in India. And the reason is there's a huge appetite for learning foreign languages. And learning foreign language, today if you go to engineering colleges, if you go to medical schools, so it's not necessarily a professional language student. People who have a domain speciality are curious about the world, because today's young person is so much more connected to the world because of their, connectivity, the smartphone culture. For me, language teaching is probably is one way of connecting. But what we need is in different professions or different domains of activities, similar people to find a connection. Prime Minister Modi, for example, has very actively promoted hackathons between countries, because he feels that's a way for young people with a particular bent of mind to actually get to know each other and connect up with each other. With Germany, again, one very positive development we have seen in the last few years is much stronger linkages of academic institutions. Now, here again, we've changed our education policy. We today welcome foreign universities and institutions to come to India. And we are very flexible about how this can be done. So if they want to come and set up a university or an institute, they're welcome. If they want to work collaboratively with an existing one, if they want to do a double degree, if they want to even promote internships, this is one way of collaboration. But I will reflect on your suggestion, because in our mind, there is also we've been sort of debating, we need more forums, not of a very generalized nature, because if it is too general, people don't take it entirely seriously. There's got to be a degree of specificity about it. Let me talk about it with some of our colleagues who are really more active in that line of work, and perhaps the next time we meet, or you may read about it, maybe I may have something better to report in.
Thank you. If time allows, I had one brief last third question. The gentleman over there. And then I would get back to you for final remarks.
Good evening, sir. I have a question regarding the diplomacy, because you are the most admired diplomat in the world. So what should the next generation of diplomacy looks like? Or how are your views on the next level of next generation of diplomacy? Because till here we have also evolved to this point, and for sure we will also evolve from here in the next 25, 30 years. So how the nature of diplomacy will evolve?
The problem when you ask someone what would be the next generation, that's a nice way of telling them that they are sort of getting extinct. So you are saying, your time is over, what would be the evolution looking like? So I take that in the right spirit. But, again, I'm really reflecting even, let us say, the last decade or two. I think in many ways the traditional ways of diplomacy, and that's not just how you dress and how you first of all the complexity of the world has increased. The speed at which you have to react is that much faster. So you are really doing more difficult sum at in a shorter time. And the culture of it, do look today how much of diplomacy is conducted through social media. Now, 5 years ago, people were even hesitant to go on to the social media because it was viewed as too unstable an environment, and you post something quickly and maybe you made a mistake, and there are all the worries which accompany that. And yet, in the last 5 years, there's been, almost every foreign ministry in the world today actually primarily communicates using social media. So, and again, as I said, it's also more complex. You can't, you have to specialize at one level, but also connect that speciality. The role of technology, for example, is been growing so fast. It's very difficult for the diplomatic world, not just as a user of technology, but really the policies which and the implications, for global balances of that. So, to me, it's like you've got to be faster, smarter, more informed, more of a specialist, yet paradoxically more of an integrator at the same time. So in some ways it is a harder profession. It is a harder profession because the standards are higher and the margin of error is less. So it's tough. So I hope I have your sympathy.
Minister Jaishankar, we are very grateful for your time. It was a very intriguing conversation, and therefore, although you gave us so much time, time was too short. And we take a lot away from this. And I would also like to thank the Indian Embassy who have helped prepare with us this important event. Thank you again for gracing us with your attendance here at DGAP, and we would love to welcome you back again soon.
Thank you very much.